It's another 2026 rookie mock draft with Canada's finest, Kyle Senra. Let's get going. Yes, hello everybody. Welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hotseat. It's the only Dynasty show that is a certified inferno. We're back with a very familiar face. It's Kyle Senra. Kyle, you've been on the show. Are we talking fourth time, fifth time now? I'm not quite sure.
I was gonna say around there, yeah, not quite 6 or higher than that, like 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely feels maybe just on these rookie shows alone, it might be 2 or 3, but I've definitely come on for a few different topics, a few different fun things. So it's been great. Thanks for continuously inviting me. I appreciate talking with you guys.
Oh, only getting the invite back, mate, because you are one of the best guests that we can have in the show. I see behind over your left shoulder. Is that some? It almost looks like Hotseat merch. I'm not sure what it is, but it's I can see the flames. You're obviously ready for the show.
Yes, that's true. Yes, the Radzio show. We'll say that.
Yeah,
it's a poster from a music concert I played at.
Sweet,
back from high school.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Absolutely love it. So we're ready to go with the show. It's a rookie mock draft. Cal, before we really jump into the class and talking about 101, 102, etc. You got an overview for this class? Because a lot of people seem to be fairly down. Are you in that queue as well?
It's funny. I view so many similarities to last year's class. I feel like the 2025 rookie class, the 26 rookie class, a lot of the same types of players are populating the first round, and a lot of the same discussions and thoughts I had last year, I'm having them again, and it seems like all throughout the first round. So I don't know that it's that different than last year. I think it starts at the top. Last year, I think the big discussion was, do you go Ashton Genty 101 or Cam Ward 101 in a super flex? And I feel like it, based on all the rookie drafts that have been done on the Dynasty Hotseat up to this point, it seems like everyone has had either one of a running back or a quarterback as the 101. So it's that same type of argument. So you kind of naturally compare all 4 of those prospects to each other. Some pretty similar things. There's 2 receivers that we really like, and then a third Ohio State receiver, and all 3 of them are going to go in the first round. And maybe more obviously, the Ohio State receiver will go higher in the first round than Igbuka did last year. Kind of felt like Igbuka should have gone higher than he did. So that was a lesson learned, and we're not going to make that mistake again with an Ohio State receiver when we're all that far late in the first, sometimes even out of the first round. So a couple tight ends, I would say, are first rounders, but we got even more information on these guys this year, and I'll get to those when we talk about them. But yeah, it's kind of eerie that it feels like we just did this in 2025. We're doing it all over again in 2026.
Yeah, here we go again, right? So let's no time like the present. Let's fire right into it, shall we? Let's get our mock draft board pulled up. Cal, you got every single pick in our Superflex. We're going one round here, and let's begin right at the start. Like you said, the discussion about the 101. What side are you leaning on?
Well, it's interesting because I think Jeremiah Love isn't as good of a prospect as Ashton Genty. But I also, in my QB prospect scores, Fernando Mendoza did not get as high of a score as Cam Ward. So, like, if I'm just saying, like, to last year, what was the thought last year? Well, I think last year we were taking, I was saying go Ashton Genty over Ward. He's a lot higher tier of running back prospect I've seen relative to where Ward was going. His QB score, I see a lot. He's more middle of the pack when it comes to first rounders. Going back to 2017. Where I have my QB scores. That would be the Mahomes draft class. I'm sure you love hearing about the 2017 draft class, don't you, Mag? So you can talk about that one all day. I mean, admittedly, Mahomes' prospect score wasn't much higher than where Mendoza and Ward were. So it's interesting. I think a year removed, though, if you went Genty over Ward, you're probably happy. And it wasn't as great a rookie season as we expected, but the Raiders look like an ascending team. Ward really struggled. And so we were hoping the Raiders are an ascending team, and maybe that's the reason to take Mendoza, but I'm going to stick with the same process we did last year. If there's, again, I don't think Love's as good as Genty, but he's still a strong enough running back prospect to almost say elite. Maybe we do call him elite, but close enough that when those prospects come out, I'll just take that running back 101. And then, Jeremiah Love there, and immediately follow it with Fernando Mendoza at the 102. Superflex, especially. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what is it about then? Let's maybe stick with Jeremiah Love. Then you said you don't quite have him as highly rated as Ashton Jetty. Is it close for you, or is there a clear sort of tier break between them?
It's pretty close, especially when you look at the production metrics. Specifically like the scrimmage yards that Jeremiah Love had per season, over 1,500 yards, 1,507 is what I have. It's incredible. I mean, it blows away anyone else in this class. I think the next highest is Jamari Taylor at 1,315, a player we'll talk about him later. But he's a lot lower of a what we view as a prospect than when we see Jeremiah Love. So he's kind of head and shoulders above everyone else production wise. But last year, Genty and Hampton both had over 1,800 scrimmage yards per season through their career. So it's not quite the same level of production that those guys were able to produce, and what we saw as some of the best two producers in college we've ever seen, really, in Hampton and Genty. So he's not quite there. Now, I have a higher tape grade on Jeremiah Love than I did on Hampton, but not Genty. Like, I think my film score on Genty is a top 5 score since 2020 when I've been going back the way I have. And so Love isn't quite to that height. I'm looking at I guess I can pull up where I have him on the all-time running back scores. It's
okay.
He's like right around right around 15. So I like Love, but I'm not maybe as enamored to say a super high end as I was last year with Ashton Genty. I think there's I'm looking at the specific film scores with Love and the contact balance. That's one big difference I found between him and Genty. It seems like Genty is really strong, and saw last year the necessity for that because the Raiders' offensive line was so bad. The hope is that Love goes to a better situation than the Raiders, and that's why maybe post-draft I'd consider having them ranked equally, or maybe even putting Love ahead of Genty. But just as prospects, I prefer Genty. I think I wouldn't quite say generational because it's only a couple years removed from Bijan, and I was incredibly high on Ken Walker, to be honest. But we're still not hitting that level with Genty, and I don't even think we're getting the Genty level with Love. So that's just. But there's no one better, I think, to take at the 101, regardless. In spite of all the bad talk, because he's still incredible. Like the footwork is great, and Love has one of the highest burst scores I've ever recorded in the past. I guess now this is 7 draft classes. So that quick ability to hit the hole fast, but also potentially break off long runs when you need to and hit that second gear. I think Love's got that, but just some other traits that I felt Genty was a lot stronger at.
Yeah. So he's still right, undisputed, at least running back 1, and he's locked in as your player 1 in this draft. And you did mention earlier you got Fernando Mendoza in at 2. Do you think, let's say for whatever reason you got 10 first round picks 101? Are you taking Love in all 10 of them, or is there some cases where you'll take Fernando Mendoza as well?
Yeah, I think you want to, if you are going to do that and switch to Mendoza, I think that's close enough that you can make that argument. You probably would cherry pick the leagues where you really need a quarterback, right? Like you're kind of dividing, okay, let's say you have 10 leagues with the 101, you're probably ranking them 1 to 10 on how badly do you need a quarterback. And the teams that are going to be like, I desperately needed like 10, 9, 8, those are the ones you're going to pick Mendoza, and the rest, you're just going to take Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing too is if you have the 101 and really need a quarterback, rather than take Mendoza, also my first move is to try and trade it. Which veteran quarterback that's already out there can I get? I know on the Dynasty 6-pack we were talking about like comparisons in the last couple episodes, just looking at startup ADP that includes rookie picks. Okay, the rookie pick is next to this player in ADP. Would you rather? And the 101 wasn't that far behind Joe Burrow. So like if you want to. If with Patrick Mahomes' ACL injury, like if you've got the 101, go try and trade it for a quarterback if you need it rather than draft Mendoza. That would be the first course of action. And then if you can't, then if you really need the quarterback, there's one sitting right here, the first overall pick, and we view the Raiders as an ascending offense. And he didn't score the best in the prospect model. He's not a huge rusher, but still a pretty good score for Mendoza. Again, not as good as Cam Ward had last year, but there's really no one in the class with a better score. I think I've got Cade Klubnik and Carson Beck with almost identical scores. Diego Pavia has an insane score, but he also might not get drafted. And like it's just because of the rushing, right? Like he had 58, almost 58 and a half rush yards per game in college. And it's like that could translate to fantasy success. We don't really, and I mean, he threw more touchdowns in college than Mendoza did, but Mendoza's the best we have in terms of someone who we view as A, will get drafted, and we know will get drafted first overall. At least we think. B, will be a good enough passer to sustain success in the NFL, but also give you some rushing. He doesn't quite. He had what I think it was. I saw 13 rush yards per game in college, so it's not going to be insane production. But he's not a nothing either. Like we'll see quarterbacks with less that we'll talk about later. So a pretty good prospect. So yeah, I can't fault anyone if they really need the quarterback and they can't trade out of the 101, and you can't trade back at all just to take Mendoza there, and you at least resolve a quarterback issue, which in Superflex is so important.
It's absolutely vital. You're right. So a lot of people, Kyle, say that the real draft begins here at 103. So if you're joining us for the first time here in the Dynasty Hotseat, where our real draft is about to begin, make sure you've hit that like button as well. Always appreciate a subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing, and of course means a lot to all of us here in the Dynasty Hotseat channel. Kyle, where are you going to go now with the 103? Because this is maybe where a lot of different names might appear.
Yes, different names, but one theme that seems to be present is, again, in almost all your episodes, a wide receiver going 103. And I know, again, we talk about an Ohio State wide receiver, and we saw Ibuka fall. So this is the range where that Ohio State receiver might go. However, I know he's not your wide receiver one, and we agree on that, because I also do not have him as the wide receiver one. But I'm not going to make you that happy, because I'm going Jordan Tyson as my wide receiver one in the class. There's 4 metrics I really like to look at, and they are dominator rating, breakout age, and then looking at players' receiving yards per team pass attempt. And I like to do that for their career average for that stat, but also look at every single season and identify what's their best single season in that receiving yards per team pass attempt. I got to say, I don't know, there won't be, I guess maybe we can foreshadow here, or maybe not spoil the surprise, because we are going to talk about all 3 of these guys, but I'm immediately going Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate right after. Just we can mention their names here, but all to say, in all 4 of those metrics, Jordan Tyson is better than Lemon and Tate in all 4. So across the board, he seems to be the best. Now, he's in some cases not by much, but it's enough for me to, it really stands out. And the one that really stands out is the breakout. So I guess maybe I should explain some of these stats for those who don't know. Dominator rating and breakout age, I get them from Player Profiler. So shout out to Player Profiler for I believe that is their the people who work there have created that stat. I know Peter Howard, who I usually get a lot of these stats from, he was at Player Profiler for quite a while. So big proponent of using that. Dominator rating is the percentage of teams' receiving yards and touchdowns. And so to see how impactful is a receiver based on the team's total yards, but also the touchdown aspect to it. Breakout age is, and you can have different thresholds for this, but it's essentially the age where a player hits a certain level of dominator rating. I usually use 20%. So what age was a player when they first hit 20% of their team's yards and touchdowns? And then again, receiving yards per team pass attempt, you figure out a player's receiving yards, you divide by the total team pass attempts that year. And then again, I look at it as the career average, but also I want to know their single season stats as well. And I got to say with Tyson, I do like him, but I don't think he's the level we saw last year of Tate or McMillan. Because of those 4 stats, the one I have found the strongest success with is the single season best receiving yards per team pass attempt. Can these players at their peak in college produce at a certain level? And typically the elite receivers almost always have one season of 3 receiving yards per team pass attempt or more. Last year, Tate or McMillan actually had 2 seasons above 3. It was just barely above 3. It was like 3.03, 3.02. But most great receivers get one of those. The fact that he had 2 really stood out to me with McMillan. And I was a big proponent of taking him 103, 104 consistently. I don't think Jordan Tyson's quite at that level. His best season, though, was 2.88. Not quite at the 3 we love to see of the true elites, but still pretty strong. The 46.8% dominator rating, that really stands out, though. And I guess he was one of the, that indicates for his offense, there weren't a lot of other talented weapons, and the team really relied on him from an early age. He first hit a 20% breakout at 18.1. So he was just barely 18 years old when the team was already relying on him. I think that that type of age-adjusted production is super key. And that's a stat where in the breakout age is maybe the biggest differentiator, because I'll go to our next guy. I'll make you happy with our number, our
Let's do it.
104 here.
Yeah,
It's really
let's
close
do
for
it.
me between Lemon and Tate. Lemon has the better dominator rating for his career, and he has the better single season receiving yards per team pass attempt. But it's funny that Tate actually has the better career receiving yards per team pass attempt and the younger breakout age, which is weird at Ohio State because you figured those would be the two things that would be pushed later. So
Yeah.
it's weird to decide how do I view that? Like, what is better? Again, the one stat that I rely on the most is receiving yards per team pass attempt single season. And in that case, Lemon's best season is 2.75, really close to the 2.88 to Jordan Tyson. So I get why people like you, I know you have Lemon as the wide receiver one in this class. I get it because he's not that far behind Tyson for me, and that's why they're grouped together. Carnell Tate, interesting enough, his best season is only 2.14. That's low enough to maybe be concerning enough to push him to third here. So I'll go Tate at 105. But I know you at least approve of the Lemon over Tate, but I guess sorry to boost your bubble with me picking Jordan Tyson as the wide receiver one. But that's, I think, at least three different now receivers that on this show someone's taken as the wide receiver one. I think that kind of speaks to, I think Brian Ford had this take. You can really pick any of these guys as your wide receiver one and make a strong argument. What you shouldn't be doing is saying they're easily the wide receiver one over these guys because all three are pretty close. It's tough to, I think, gauge and separate them. So I think that the rational take is to have them kind of all grouped together. And I think it's not surprising that not everyone has had the three of them as the top three, but in a lot of drafts, we're seeing, there are a lot of mocks anyway, these three as the first three to go.
This is the most fascinating part of the draft for me, is looking at these three and how do people rank them. Like, you're right, you can make an argument for all of them. A lot of people have Tate, a lot of people have Lemon, a lot of people have Tyson. In fact, just from other members of the Dynasty Hotseat team on the Dynasty show and the Devy show, like, people have got them in all three different orders as well. So even
I saw
in
Kev
the
really
Hotseat
tweeting that
family.
out about like Tyson as the wide receiver one, and I was like, yes, someone else sees it too.
Kev loves Tyson. Ali loves Tyson. Like, I might be the only Lemon one. I'm not sure. Maybe Phil has my back on Lemon. I'm not quite sure.
At least you had a guest come on and give you the Lemon as wide receiver one. I remember seeing that episode. I can't remember who that was, but that gave you some reassurance and some confidence.
Yeah, I think I had JT Brew on recently, who basically had my top 12 in the exact order. It was like, yeah, you're speaking my language right there.
Yeah, that's right.
A great episode. But yeah, I got no arguments putting any of these guys at 1, 2, or 3. They're all really talented. They're all really good. So I'm not surprised to see them go 3, 4, and 5. At 6, though, this could be anyone. Like, this could be one of 5, potentially maybe even 6 players here, Kyle. So where are you going to go next after Carnell Tate at the 106?
You see, one of the things I did in last year's draft, and maybe this is the start of why I'm not pushing Tate down. Okay, that single season receiving yards per team pass attempt being lower. He's an Ohio State receiver. These guys all seem to come in, Brian Hartline being there, the wide receiver coach, that it seems like they're so well refined entering the NFL. Jeremiah Smith next year will still have that because he was with Hartline, but Hartline leaving, watch for that to not be as strong anymore. Like, once after Smith, how are the rest of these Ohio State receivers going to fare in the NFL moving forward? It'll be a fascinating thing to look back on 10 years from now and see, is this like a big fracture where suddenly they're no longer as strong? But while he's there, I'll put Tate. But also, one of the things I did last year was maybe devalue a little bit of Tyler Warren and Loveland. I was saying they should be like the 110, 111, which meant I got 0 shares in Dynasty because, like, in rookie drafts, they were probably consistently going right around this range in the mid-first. And turns out those were smart picks to make. Like, I would say, no, take the running backs, take RJ Harvey, take Judkins and Henderson. And if you took the tight ends over those running backs, you're pretty happy. I mean, you took them over, definitely drafted Travis Hunter, I think, at 105. Could have taken any other player and be happier with that, right? And so the one reason, though, I was a little hesitant on both tight ends is they didn't run at the combine or pro days, and we didn't have athletic testing. And I love to know the RAS scores, the relative athletic scores for the tight ends, especially, because that's the one stat where the athleticism really does separate when it comes to the fantasy football production. We have that luxury this year. Kenyon Sadiq ran at the combine, and his relative athletic score is 9.58. I mean, we've seen some tight ends come out with like 10s. I'm thinking of, was it Zach Kuntz a couple years ago? Ran a 10.
Yeah, he went to the Jets.
Then there's also, that's the worst landing spot ever for tight ends, because outside of Christopher Hendon, I've been playing fantasy football since 2012, and I swear over the last 14 years now, we've had one good tight end season out of the Jets, and it was that random Chris Herndon season as a rookie that no one saw coming anyway, and then he disappeared instantly and was awful. And it's been a wasteland for tight end, but he also went like the 7th round, so he was irrelevant.
Yeah.
I think Sadiq's probably going to go in the first round. It seems pretty safe to say that. And with this 9.58, like this is, to me, the hype that Kyle Pitts got is maybe how we should be treating Sadiq. And even this might even be too late to take him. Like, I considered breaking up that receiver tier and actually putting him maybe even at the 104. I think if you're in a tight end premium league, I'm taking him over any receiver. And to me, he's a 103. I've played in some leagues, Mag, I don't know if you ever have, where it's not just tight end premium, but you have to start 2 tight ends. There's 2 starting tight end spots. In that case, to me, he's you can argue him as the 101 because the position scarcity we think about with quarterbacks and superflex, that's there, maybe even magnified with the elite guys at tight end. And suddenly that idea of like tight end probably becomes more valuable than quarterback in the 2 tight end formats. At least the times I've played it, it's so hard to acquire them. You essentially treat them like you do quarterbacks in terms of trades. Like people won't trade away a quarterback unless they're getting one back. So to that point, you could put him next to Mendoza with his elevated relative athletic score and Mendoza's so prospect score. If I'm comparing them as prospects, that you take the scarcity away, I think Sadiq's a better prospect. So suddenly, then you enter the argument: is he worth in a tight end premium or a 2 tight end league what Jeremiah Love is projected to get you volume wise? And I don't think there's a wrong answer there. So I think when it comes to tight end premium, I think you almost can't go too high with Sadiq. And this could even still be underselling him here at 106, but I'm pretty confident you've addressed every position. It feels like a nice balanced draft, but to me, this is like the top tier at every position is represented here in the top 6. And then to me, this is where the rest of the draft is really fascinating. But I've got some convictions right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is for me where there is a bit of a clear like tier break between these guys are going to be good, and then after this it's like these guys can be good if, you know what I mean? There's like a bit of an asterisk next to the rest of this first round where there are players, like we have been sort of downgrading this class in general, but there are still players here that can be good, but there will have to be certain caveats that need to be hit for them to be able to get there. I don't think Sadiq's one of those players that I think those 3 wide receivers are. Mendoza and Love I expect to be good as well, but now starting at 107, this is where we're like, right, this guy could be good, but I need to see something. So I'd love to know who your 107 is and what are the things you need to see from them to reach that higher tier.
Well, again, to echo back to 2025, I kept saying one of the takes was Warren and Loveland together. Like I kind of devalued both. I didn't want to pick and choose. I felt like they were both top 15 picks in the NFL draft. We didn't have RAS scores on either. Both were great prospects coming in weeks. We weren't surprised to see them go that high in the draft. Like this is what was expected of them. So I felt, they were worth first rounders, but I also felt like they should be together. And again, this year, both of the top 2 tight ends both ran at the combine, and Eli Stowers' RAS score wasn't as good as Sadiq's, but 9.46 is still incredible. Like, I think back to last year's class, we didn't have those guys run, but we had like Mason Taylor and Terrence Ferguson and Harold Fannin run at the combine. I think Ferguson was incredible. I really liked, I think he had like a 9.3 RAS score, but like Mason Taylor was in the 8s. I believe Harold Fannin was in the high 7s, and he well outplayed that and his draft capital, and Harold Fannin's incredible. But to have Stowers at a 9.46, I think puts that in perspective to just how incredible that is. And I don't really see that much difference between him and Sadiq. I think and it's the if, right? The only if we need to truly solidify Stowers here is if he goes in the first round. So I think as long as he's a first round pick, that's going to provide opportunity on that team, but also dynasty long-term opportunity to be able to resell him. And I think based on his RAS score, I like that more than I do any of the other tier 2 prospects at any position. I'm looking at that, and he's the one that stands out as he's almost as good as Sadiq. And so I don't think it's too crazy to put them here next to each other.
I've got a great bet. Any betting players about? I've got a great bet for you next season. Eli Stowers to throw a touchdown next season is a bet I'm making, because he was a 4-star recruited quarterback, really highly rated QB before he eventually made the move over to tight end. Don't expect him to be, out there blocking much. He's more like a Dalton Kincaid than he is, a Tyler Warren, I would say, right? He's not blocking many people. He's out there. He's running routes. He's a big wide receiver rather than your stereotypical tight end. But that's great for fantasy, right, Kyle?
Oh yeah, no, perfect. I mean, again, I think one of the reasons that the RAS score matters so much for fantasy is that we expect a lot of these tight ends to be catching passes close to the line of scrimmage, and it's the athletic freaks. They can just do more after the catch. We've seen that with George Kittle constantly. Right? We're chasing the Kittle archetype. If a receiver with Kittle's athletic ability ever got Travis Kelce's target share, it'd be broken for fantasy football, right? And so we've never quite put it together. These like true elite target earners with like Kelce and McBride, they're the guys with like an 8 RAS score, but not the 9.5s like Kittle or Jonnu Smith, right? It seems like those guys never quite get Kyle Pitts to a certain extent. Like those guys never get the massive target shares we love. Sadiq and Stowers might, right? And just that chance that they might, I think, elevates both to be good rookie picks and both high up in dynasty tight end rankings right now, even before the
NFL. I love it. So we've gone back to back tight end, not making the same mistakes as last year with those elite tight ends coming out of the draft. So where we're going next with pick number 8, Kyle.
So another back-to-back positions here, but we'll start with Denzel Boston at the 108. He's a tier 2 receiver. He's got some very impressive stats. I mean, in some ways, some of Boston's stats I look at are better than Carnell Tate's, for instance. The receiving yards per team pass attempt, his single season best is 2.38. Again, we're a far cry away from where Lemon and Tyson were 275, 288. But a career dominator rating of 37.9. So Boston was a key piece of his offense and was relied on pretty heavily throughout his career. I think he, to me, seems worthy of being the wide receiver 4 and going in the spot, at least right now, based on his profile. Another one of these really high dominator rating guys, Kevin Concepcion. I think that's his name, right? It's not
SD, Kevin.
It's not KC Concepcion, because I'm pretty sure the C stands for Concepcion. So by people calling him KC Concepcion, I think these people are saying Kevin Concepcion, which this would make a whole new level of the Drake May nickname, right? Like this isn't Drake May.
Yeah.
Like this is because it sounds like he just wants to be called KC. He just wants to be called his initials, and people took that to think, his initials are KC Concepcion, but the C stands for Concepcion. So I don't really know what to call him. So I'm just going to stick with Kevin Concepcion for now. Maybe the NFL draft clarifies it. But yeah, I mean, regardless of Rose by any other name is still a flower, I guess. I don't know. Someone wrote that somewhere some time ago.
I mean, what a waste of an absolutely amazing surname, Concepcion. Like, you're giving that surname, but you don't want to use it. What are you doing, KC? Come on.
Who conceived that idea? But yeah, so Concepcion's a dominator rating again, 36.9, almost as good as Denzel Boston. Also, his breakout age at 18.9. These guys that break out as teenagers, that's quite remarkable. So I think these are another two that you could, in my mind, could probably flip. Again, a little bit higher dominator rating for Boston, earlier breakout age for Concepcion, slightly better receiving yards per team pass attempt from a single season perspective for Boston, but Concepcion is the better career average for that, the earlier breakout age. So I just went with Boston. I think his peak slightly better at the end. And I think that's just the one reason that I'm going with him at the 108 and then Concepcion at the 1.
What do you think for Concepcion or Boston? Maybe not both of them, maybe choose one of them. What is that extra little sprinkle that we spoke about, after that 106? What's that extra sprinkle? Or to use a curling term, Cal, what's that extra little poke at the end of the play that they need to get over the line here?
I swear I thought they referred that as a boop, and I thought the whole controversy was referred to as Boopgate, which is just the. I mean, for a lot of these players, I think it's the same as Stowers, though. Like, who gets first round capital and who doesn't? That's first and foremost the biggest divider. Would love to see them get good landing spots, be tied to good quarterbacks. I think the one thing every year we overstate this part of landing spot, and every year we regret it later. Oh, it's a crowded spot. Never worry that it's a crowded spot. It'll always work itself out. If the talented player will always find a way. The quarterback is much more important for a landing spot. If this is just a bad quarterback, no one's going to break out because even a crowded spot or not, like the offense can't operate. So look at landing spots more for quarterbacks and offensive coordinators and just offensive systems. Don't worry about if a landing spot is crowded, because every time we do it, every time we drop a player just because it's a crowded landing spot, we regret it. Whether it's AJ Brown or Buka last year, every year we get this lesson. Every year we say, okay, don't worry about it. Then every year there's a crowded landing spot. We think, there's no way with all these talented receivers, but just we really got to stop, because even I'm guilty of that. Like, I was knocking Igbukah down to the range of the Tyler Warren Loveland. Like the guys I had at the back end of the first were much better than the guys I had in the mid first, right? I think, for the most part, Genty at 101, let's say, and Hampton 103, McMillan 104. Those were the smart picks. But then going Hunter, Judkins, Henderson, Harvey, those next picks, that was a mistake to me, to rank those guys there and not rank the other position. The running backs over Jackson Dart, over the tight ends, over Buka, like that. That's where the mistakes were made. So I'm doing that again here. You notice no running backs, I'm not just pushing the running backs up just because. But I am going to go running back here, though, I guess as a natural transition. But this was, think about, like, again, the RB2 last year was probably going as the 103. In some drafts, I even saw Hampton ahead of Cam Ward as the 102. So to take the 102, the second running back, this is a bit of a value. And I think maybe I didn't learn this mistake, because I like Jonah Coleman as the RB2, and he's dealing with the injury right now. There's a running back that had that, where I had as the RB2 based on tape and based on, like, he didn't run at the combine because he was injured, and it was Kendre Miller. Man, ranking Kendre Miller ahead of Devon Achane was such a mistake, right? So the injury. So am I repeating that? I don't know. Hopefully Jonah Coleman's better than Kendre Miller, but I am going to take Jonah Coleman here. The scrimmage yards per season is pretty good, over 1,100. And really, of the guys I have ranked, that is, I guess it's fourth technically. He's 3 yards, scrimmage yards per season behind Kaytron Allen, which is funny for third place in this class. But I mentioned earlier, Jeremiah Love's at over 1,500 scrimmage yards per season. Yeah. We're talking about Coleman at 1,165. So it's, I guess, represented by the gap in where the RB1 and RB2 are going in this mock draft.
Yeah, I think Coleman might be, when it's all said and done, I see him going here quite a lot. And I'm obviously fine with going here quite a lot. He might be the steal of the draft. I just feel like, because Jeremiah Love is so good, I think it makes Coleman look not like a scrub, but kind of just like a bang average running back. I think he's slightly better than, like, your average guy. I've got him as a good prospect rather than an average prospect. Again, though, with the running backs, the capital is important. The landing spot is important. But I'm more than happy to spend 110 on Coleman quite a lot of the time. I think he might be the guy I end up with the most shares of. Just, I might have a second round pick. I might try and trade up to the back end of the first and grab me some Jonah Coleman. I really like him here at 110. I think it's nice value. And you got 2 picks left, Kyle. Where are you going to go with your penultimate one at 111?
Well, let's go back to last year, because at this point last year, we would have said Shedeur Sanders was the QB2.
Yeah.
And we're saying that this year right now, you know what? Okay, at first it was, he's locked in to go in the top 10 just because there's such a lack of other quarterbacks. Someone's going to be desperate enough. And then as the process went on, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe the top teams are just they'll get their quarterback in the second round, but he'll still be a first rounder. Someone at some point in the first round will take Sanders. And then draft night comes and the Giants take Jackson Dart instead. And it made me regret everything about the process, because I ranked Shedeur Sanders as the QB2, and I was saying he should be a first rounder in rookie drafts last year. His prospect score wasn't great. In fact, like, Dart had actually a higher prospect score than Cam Ward. And I'll give my co-host on the Dynasty Sticks Pack credit. Jamie Perogue, before the draft, had Jackson Dart as his QB1. He was just saying that the rushing athleticism is worth more in fantasy than however good Cam Ward's going to be as a passer. And you know what? My prospect score agreed with that. The rushing yards per game in college was enough to push. I talked about Mendoza being at a 130. I think Ward was right at 140, and I think he got Dart about 146. So it's a little bit higher. Should have trusted that prospect score. And once again, with Ty Simpson, we're faced with that, a low score. One of the reasons his score is so Ty Simpson's prospect score for me is actually lower than Shedeur Sanders, but I am going to take him here, just on the thought that he might get first round capital and take the risk here. But knowing that this is basically like the Shedeur Sanders take, but again, I think he's actually even worse of a prospect than Sanders was. Only threw 28 passes in college, and passing volume is a huge part of the score for me. And I think one of the things that these guys that haven't had enough starts, they really seem to suffer in the NFL. And we've had some great seasons of quarterbacks that have stayed longer in college to get those extra reps, be refined, and they're ready to go from the get-go. I'm very worried about that with Ty Simpson. But if he's a first-round quarterback, the trade value alone means that it's worth it here. So you're taking the risk. If he makes this is the ultimate if. He better, and again, it's the same argument for these other guys, but like if Boston or Concepcion go in the second round and there's spots where we think, okay, there's a good quarterback there and he'll have success, you're not worried about the pick. They might still be worth taking where they're going. If Ty Simpson falls to the third round, he's maybe a round too early in rookie drafts. If not, like maybe he should be a third rounder instead. He's going a round and a half too early. So the huge risk here. He has to be a first rounder to make this worth it. If he is a first rounder, there's probably not much room to move up. So you probably feel like you're still drafting him at his ceiling just because I don't love him as a prospect. But again, it's the thought and the risk of him going in the first round, I think makes it, if he goes in the first round, the appeal, the trade appeal, I think makes it worth more than any other player you could take. So it's the ultimate risk. This feels like the riskiest pick I've made yet.
I think in a year where we're seeing Trinidad Chambliss literally sue the NCAA to stay in college, it would be quite odd for Ty Simpson to declare if he hasn't had some sort of firm like confirmation that he's going in the first round, right? It would be odd, right?
Did Shedeur have some confirmation that he was going in the first round last year? Or?
I think Shedeur could have been told he wasn't, that he wouldn't have believed
and
anyone.
he didn't even believe it, right? Like that was the problem there. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, well, whereas Ty Simpson.
Did you see what happened to Shedeur last year? So like, did that make you cautious? Okay, you better be really sure. So maybe and maybe he's looking around. He's like, well, if it's not me, it's the John Travolta meme. Like if it's not me, who else? Right? Like who's around here? It might not be some Pulp Fiction that he goes as a first rounder, and again, is worth taking in as a first rounder in rookie drafts.
Yeah, we'll see. He's definitely one that draft capital depends on, maybe the most out of any player in this draft. That'll depend on where he's taken. But for now, we're presuming he's first round pick. He's locked in as your penultimate pick of the first round. You got one more to go, Kyle. Who is it going to be?
We're going to go with Emmitt Johnson. And I have debated as between him and Jonah Coleman as the RB2.
Yep.
Landing on Coleman right now, and it's interesting because in this class, one of the things I look at is single season catches. Like, what's the most catches you've had in one season? I know Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies, he kind of saw the threshold of 20 receptions in college being kind of a benchmark for a lot of guys that have at least gotten 21 time will typically have some type of pass catching role in the NFL.
Okay.
But still, I like to track. I like to know who has the most. And in this class of the 15 running backs that I've gone through, he has the most single season catches. He had a season of 46 receptions. So, okay, you're getting, just not just what he's doing as a rusher, but also as a receiver. In spite of that, he just barely got over 1,000 scrimmage yards per season. And so, like Jonah Coleman, his best season for catches is 31. That's 15 fewer receptions, but his scrimmage yards per season is still higher than Johnson's. And so that was kind of, okay, with all the receptions he's got, you'd figure that scrimmage yards per season would be boosted up. It's not just the rushing, but also the receiving yards. So that's a slight bit concerning. He didn't do great at the combine, a 5.78 RAS. This isn't horrible, but it's not that great. So it was enough to, again, maybe in spite of Coleman being injured and not running, it maybe looked better on him that he didn't have a RAS score like that. So I still think he's worth a first rounder. And certainly if he's a pass catching back in the NFL, that could be a role to just have a consistent fantasy floor. And again, certainly we love floor for running backs, the predictability of touches. And, these pass catching backs, sometimes you can also predict the games. Oh, they're favored. Well, this is the time you definitely want to play like a guy like Emmitt Johnson. Or sorry, they're trailing. They're not favored. They're behind. This is the game you want to play Johnson. You expect a lot of receptions to the running back. But again, risk here. We'll see how great of an athlete and runner is he. And I guess more than Coleman, because I think Coleman, he could be hurt by the draft capital, but as long as he goes to a good spot, the capital could just be, we're afraid of the injury. Whereas with this bad RAS score, do teams hold that against Johnson? And we see him fall in the draft as a result of that further than he should. And I guess maybe I'm just more willing to forgive Coleman, just knowing, okay, the only reason that he might fall is because of an injury. As soon as he's healthy and ready to go, like you said, he might be a steal, not just in rookie drafts, but in the NFL draft. Whereas Johnson, I guess right now, is there a risk that he falls so far in the draft that he's not worth a first rounder? So he and Simpson, I think these last two, especially draft capital, probably matters the most for their status as first rounders.
Yeah, Johnson, he's definitely a great pass catcher. He's also a lot of fun to watch. Like all the little jukes and moves that he makes, you're like, oh, he's like a little wind up toys you get sometimes. You just let him go. Like I kind of get that kind of energy from Emmitt Johnson sometimes. So he's your final pick of the fourth round. Cal, will not let you go just yet though, because everyone also wants to know, are there any other players that you maybe wanted to mention that don't quite fit into your first round? And can you please, I don't know if you can, but it is becoming quite a tradition now, Kyle. Any Canadians we should keep an eye on for?
I think, well, there's first off for the Canadian, I don't know much fantasy relevant Canadians, but Messidor, who I can't remember, he's a lineman. I can't remember now if he's offense or defensive lineman, but he's kind of getting a lot of first round capital, or like talk of being a first rounder. We haven't had a Canadian go in the first round in quite some time. I think you asked me last year, a couple years ago, who's the best Canadian. I think I ultimately landed on Matthew Bergeron, who's an offensive lineman for the Falcons. Since they drafted him, he has been the starting left guard from day one as a rookie. And this is the final year of his rookie season. So Bergeron is someone who's either going to get an extension with the Falcons in this offseason, and we're going to, that's quite a lot of money, which the Falcons have tended to do. Like if they get the lineman they like, they just keep like Jake Matthews, I think is still the left tackle there. How long would Clay Matthews retire? But Jake Matthews is still going at left tackle. It's amazing. And so he'll either get that contract there, or he's going to hit the open market and make a ton of money in free agency next year. So it's going to make me one of those eye-opening things. But even Bergeron was, I think the Falcons got him like in the early second round or mid-second. So to get a first-round Canadian, Messidor could really smash there. But if you want, Mags, I can do a full second round. I know that was kind of our original plan. So I think we have enough time to do that if you'd like.
Let's do it, man. Let's blast through to it. Why don't we go to one? Why don't you give me your 2, 1, 2, 2, and 2, 3, and then maybe choose one of those guys to speak about?
For sure. We'll go Jadarian Price as the RB4 here at the 201.
Yep.
Then I'll go Elijah Surratt and Chris Bradshaw, your wide receivers.
Who out of those do you want to focus on?
Price. So we just talked about. Here's the reason I have Johnson clearly ahead of Price, and it's the catches per season. Jadarian Price did not catch at all. He looks like a great runner, but the most receptions he ever got in a single season in college is 6. We've seen stuff like that recently. The most like the present example last year, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He was also, his best season was about 6 or 7. But we had a really, I can't even remember his name now. The Vikings took him, and he was someone that everyone was really hyping up pre-draft. I didn't think he was a good runner. Now I can't even remember his name. So much
like Njokwanu or
no, it wasn't Njokwanu. It was because he got good capital. He got surprising capital. Like he was like the 4th rounder. Obviously, the Vikings had a special teams role for him. There was this is towards the end of Dalvin Cook before Jones got there. We were wondering, okay, who's going to take over? And then Cook got hurt or something, and then suddenly Ty Chandler was the guy the rest of the year. But there was another player that everyone was talking up, and I was much higher on Chandler. Now I can't even remember his name because he was so bad, but man, people loved this guy. He only caught I think about 6 passes in a season. Yeah. And he went in the 7th round. But I also thought he wasn't a good runner. Whereas Price, I do think he's a good runner, but if there's risk with Price, it's that he's basically non-existent as a pass catcher in college. And I don't think you don't just suddenly learn that. Like the guys that don't hit 20, especially now with 17 games, there's really no excuse to not hit 20 catches in a season. So if you're not even getting close, like you only have 6, that's pretty bad. But man, he looks good enough as a runner, and his relative athletic score is great, 8.37.
Yeah.
But if I'll take Johnson's receiving production over Price's better RAS score, that's what the difference right now is on who's a first rounder and who isn't.
Yeah, that's a fair trade-off to make for them, I think, for sure. So let's get your next group of 3 then, Cal. What we got? 4, 5, and 6.
Well, we're talking about RAS score. We'll go Mike Washington, Omar Cooper Jr., And,
where you are.
and I guess this is where I'll feed into suddenly that I guess maybe Mike Washington's that third tier running back, or that clear third tier. I'll go someone I mentioned earlier, Jamari Taylor.
Mike Taylor, nice.
He's my RB6 right now.
Okay,
Mike
which one of those
Washington.
guys do you want to talk about?
Mike Washington had a 10 RAS score, and I already had him, I think, at RB8 before, so I've raised him a little bit because of that, from 8 to 5, and it's the difference between like a late second to a mid second, but it's pretty impressive. There's not much to say about that. I'll be quick on him, just like he was in the process. But I wonder if Jamari Taylor as a top 6 running back is maybe something that's not being talked about enough. He's the guy I mentioned earlier. His scrimmage yards per season is 1,350. Second best in this class. To be fair, it's basically as close to Love as it is to Kaytron Allen and Jonah Coleman, who are third and fourth behind him. So great producer in college. His best single season receptions is also 43. So he kind of puts everything together. It's really just the question with him is how late in the draft is he going to go? Because it seems like he's not getting the hype of draft capital like even an Emmitt Johnson is. So I think that's the risk of why he's maybe falling to the mid-second. But like it wouldn't shock me that if he goes high enough in the draft, and to a good enough landing spot, if I raise him all the way to the RB2 or RB3. So just be on the lookout for Jamari Taylor as a potential riser higher than this point.
Yeah, I like Jamari Taylor a lot. He's my running back 6 as well. Just looking at my grades on him, he's actually not that far off Jadarian Price in my rankings as well. So yeah, he's someone that could potentially rise up above him depending on that landing spot. He just seems like a super solid prospect, Jamari Taylor, who can come in and do a really nice job for whatever team he lands on. I don't expect him to come in and be the RB1, but injuries are going to happen. He will get a chance, I think, at some stage next year, and hopefully he can show what he can do. So I really like the pick of Jamari Taylor there at 206. Let's move on. Who's your next crop of 3 though at 7, 8, and 9?
I can even go one further and say my next 4 players are all running backs. So we can talk about honestly all 4 of them together, and it's just
let's do it.
They're all guys with over 1,000 scrimmage yards per season. They've all hit the 20 receptions, even if one of them is just barely doing it. And one guy especially had a really great RAS score, but a little bit behind the others in production. So the way I'd order them here, I go both Penn State running backs back to back with Nick Singleton first, and then Kaytron Allen next. It's my RB 7 and 8. The national champion Roman Henby as the next pick, and then I remember prospect score watching that guy like 3 years ago. He's finally come out. It's amazing. Thank you, Roman Henby, for finally declaring.
He's not here.
Oh,
can you believe that?
He not be there. That's the strange one to not be there. Again,
we'll
I'm shocked he wasn't in the system 2 years ago. And then Adam Randall as well as my RB10 to finish off this kind of tier running backs.
All right, cool. Which one of these guys do you want to focus on? Should we give Henby some love since he's not even in the system? His
film score was about average or decent, but man, a couple years ago, I think it was the 2024 class, I thought he was going to come out then, and he was like, when I was kind of getting ready to rank him, he was going to be like top 5 in that year's film scores. I remember I had who did I have really high? I think I had Ray Davis as my highest film grade. Audric Estime and Blake Watson as the next 2, and I think he might have come in next. Like that was not a great year, at least from my eyes, for running backs. And I really didn't like Bucky Irving on tape. Clearly, I was wrong because he was the one big breakout there. But man, I've been waiting for Henby for so long. And again, I have a bit of a fondness for Indiana just over the last 2 years. The name Rourke might ring a name bell to those who you watched CFL football or spent any time near me. I talk about Nathan Rourke a lot. Curtis Rourke, who followed up Nathan, they both were at Ohio University, but for his last season, for his senior year, Curtis Rourke what's the word? It's not transitioned. Man, I don't know college well. Clearly transferred. Yes. He transferred to Indiana, and so last year, so I guess 2 years ago, the 2024 Indiana season, they made the playoffs. And so this national championship didn't really come out of nowhere. Like Curtis Rourke as the starting quarterback there kind of set them up for success. I think they lost in the playoffs in the first round to Notre Dame. And if I remember correctly, Notre Dame went to the national championship game before losing to Ohio State. And in the regular season, their only loss was to Ohio State that year. So they only lost 2 games all year. Regular season loss to Ohio State, and that was enough to knock them out of the conference championship final. So they didn't play in the Big Ten final. But with only 1 loss, they still made the playoffs. And their second loss was to Notre Dame in the playoffs, the 2 teams that met the national championship.
Wow.
So, get a Canadian quarterback at your big school. I was rooting for Indiana back then. And I thought, oh, well, Rourke's graduating. I'm not going to care. But then seeing the success they had, I just kept being really happy for them. And it got to the point where, man, I was totally rooting for Indiana last year. And then seeing Roman Hemby, and it's like, wait, there he is. I didn't know where he ended up. He's just, I think he was at Maryland for a while. And again, I kept grading him because like he kept having late decisions on to come back or not. So it kept like grading him and watching him, expecting him to declare and get to like through the process. I'm even ranking guys, and I realized, I got to pull him out of the rankings because he's still in college. And then he's finally there. So I got the cheer for Hemby as well. But decent score. And I guess the bad news is the mileage on him, and that he's played for so long. But he's never, like, especially last year, he split the backfield, but was still really productive in a split backfield. So maybe some wear and tear shaved off Hemby. Again, maybe it's just because I've been watching him for so long that I like him. But again, he had over 1,000 scrimmage yards per season, 1,115 to be exact. 1,112 is Nick Singleton. So I do think that it's fair to put them in the same tier. 40 receptions in a single season. There really is not much difference between Hemby and Nick Singleton. His best single season is 41 catches. And again, in this class, the highest I saw was Emmitt Johnson at 46. So shows he could be at least elite reception numbers. You can get a lot of receptions, not necessarily be the elite yards after the catch guy, but certainly the ability to absorb a lot of catches is great. So I like Hemby here. I think he's worth it as a late second round pick as it is.
Yeah, and Sleeper need to put some respect on his name and get him in the system. That's a joke that he's not in there. So let's see if we can get 2 players in the system for your last 2 of the second round, Kyle. Where are you going to go?
We'll start to go down to receiver, and it'll be nice. We'll go 2 more wide receivers, and what that'll be is we've at 10. We're basically at equal all positions, which is funny. It wasn't necessarily intentional, but we'll have 10 running backs, 10 receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks through 2.
Nice. Okay.
Maybe that feels like it's meant to be, but this is kind of where the tiers do break. And I think this is a bigger tier at receiver for me right now. The next few picks, early thirds, would also probably be receivers, all the way maybe up to like 305. The 2 I'll take here are Chris Bell to start with, and then Malachi Fields right after.
Both just athletic freaks, right? Those 2. Is that the main reason you're taking them here at the back end of the second? Just like the potential upside of these 2?
Yeah, and I think for especially Fields, like the stats don't quite measure up to some of the other guys. Bell a little more. His dominator rating is at 38.6%. But in spite of that, his best single season receiving yards per team pass attempt is only 2.19. So he was a kind of a consistent. He could consistently get a certain percentage of targets throughout the course of his career. But never really one season where he flashed. And again, I really love seeing those single season high marks for a receiver more than the career average. So I think that's maybe the reason he falls down here, because I mean that's a better dominator rating than Boston and Concepcion, who went over a full round ahead of him. But their single season flashes were a little bit better. 2.38, 2.25 for those best receiving yards per team pass attempt seasons. It's not actually that far off from Bell at 2.19. But the average receiving yards per team pass attempt for his career is pretty low at 1.34. Concepcion's at 1.88 for reference. And like Surratt, Brazel, Cooper, they're all higher as well in that regard to Bell. So just enough to make him fall. Still think he's worthy of being a second rounder here, but just barely.
Yeah. Okay. So we got those guys locked in. I think you're spot on with that analysis on those guys for sure. And let's get then did you say you maybe had 2 guys earlier that you wanted to mention as potential sleepers? You still got those in mind, or did we talk about any of them there?
Well, I think I referenced the quarterbacks earlier. The 2 guys that have it, in the case of Carson Beck, literally an identical score to the I guess the 100th decibel as Mendoza. It's Carson Beck and Tate Klubnik. So those are my QBs 3 and 4. I think they're well developed enough as passers, and Klubnik offers a little bit more rushing. His rush yards per game is 17.92, which is a little bit better than Mendoza's. numbers actually aren't that different. The one thing Mendoza has is the better completion percentage. Klubnik was only 64% completion for his career, whereas Mendoza's up at 68.6. But like really, like Klubnik's got a better prospect score than Ty Simpson. It's just it seems like there's not much talk of Klubnik going in the first round. The same with Beck. So I really like the two of them. I go Talon Green as well at quarterback as my QB5. He's the rushing guy. He's the one where if he gets high enough capital, I could consider him as the QB2. Especially if Simpson doesn't get first round capital. And like, let's say they're both second rounders, I'm easily taking Green over him. 45.3 rush yards per game in college. Again, outside of Pavia, who again is my height, so he might not get drafted as a result of that. Like, it's the best of the, I guess, 11 quarterbacks that I scored out in my prospect score. So I like all three of them: Klubnik, Beck, and Talon Green.
It's funny, isn't it, that Beck and Klubnik were probably your 1 and 2 heading into the season of where people expected these quarterbacks to go, and then such a big drop off. I don't know. I mean, Beck had a good season, I would say.
To a national championship.
Miami. Yeah, like you can't really knock that. I think Beck is slapped on a little bit. I think I might take a couple of Beck shares here and there.
5.2 rush yards per game for Beck, though, right? Like I think for fantasy wise, the reason with Beck is that we view him as sort of a. Is he really that different than Mac Jones? Like he's kind of a statue.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's whereas Klubnik at least possesses that athleticism, and I think that's enough to make the difference of why they again their scores were almost identical. But Beck had more career touchdowns, higher completion percentage as well, but Klubnik a bit better of the rusher. Green's a lot better of a rusher, but the touchdown production and the completion percentage is only 60.1, and that's why he falls at 5. But they're all really close in their scores. Like all four of them, and I'll include Mendoza, all have like within 1 point of each other. It's 130.92 for Klubnik is the highest, and 129.48 is Talon Green. So that's like not even 1.5 point difference in their QB score. And like, you know, for reference sake, like you get Lamar Jackson at above 200 for like the true elite rushers and elite passers. So to be all within like 1.5 points of each other is really close.
It's crazy.
Even though they're not all producing the same way as we mentioned. The difference is there. I can kind of go sleepers at every position. My next two receivers are Jeremy Bernard at receiver 11, and then Ted Hurst at wide receiver 12.
He's getting some buzz, right?
And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about Hurst. It seems like he is more just the deep threat receiver. That he's probably going to go maybe like he might go higher than wide receiver 12 in the NFL draft, but we maybe shouldn't rank him higher than wide receiver 12 in Dynasty, right? Like there's some big playability if he's in the right offense with the right quarterback. That's so for Hurst, maybe draft capital is less important than just the offensive fit. Whereas some other guys like Bernard or even the last two mentioned, Bell and Fields, I think more than anything, we just want to see the draft capital on those guys. Is a team willing to invest in them for the playing time? Whereas a guy like Hurst, the good draft capital might be there, but if it's a bad offense, he might not get to show his skill set. So again, it's either going to be with receivers, it's either draft capital or QB fit is the big if, especially for most players, it's draft capital is the biggest if, to be honest. We're talking about this before the draft. Draft capital really changes everything because it lets you know everything that these teams think about these players. You know, and if a player goes early, it lets you know what that team thinks of that player. But if a player goes really late, that lets you know what a lot of teams think of that player because they keep picking over him.
Yeah, and then the hit rates as well for fantasy on these later round picks. I mean, it's the data is there, and sure you might find a Puka Nacua. And like everyone's like, who's this year's Puka Nacua? There's not one. Like that's there isn't. You're not going to find a Puka every year. It doesn't work.
How many Puka Nacuas have we actually had though? Right? Like I think someone mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown is the closest because he was a day pick as well. But he was like early 4th round, and everyone was shocked that he didn't get taken on the first 2 days. Right? It was like this grave mistake. Like why are I was gonna say the Chiefs? That's not the Chiefs' fault. Why are the Giants taking Kadarius Toney in the 1st round and Amon-Ra falls all the way? Like before that, we knew that was the case. I think we thought Puka was good. Like I think of some people like Derek Brown, who really high on Puka through the whole process. But most people weren't surprised to see him in the 5th round. Like it was okay. It felt like where he should go for that, and then just by that result, we weren't expecting that type of production.
And then before that, you have to go back to maybe like Tyreek Hill, even like it doesn't happen very often.
And there's a specific reason that he went so far, right? Like there's, we know we'd like, So, I mean, to be fair, there's a specific reason Puka fell so far, right? The athletic testing wasn't there, right? And so, especially at receiver, I really don't like. That's why, when I've mentioned Raz, I've mentioned a tight end and running back, and quarterback for the who's rushing a lot, but wide receiver. One of the things I don't look at is Raz scores. How did
Yeah.
you produce? That's all I really care about. Who are the productive
Mhm.
players? Because however you found ways to produce in college, you'll maybe be able to find those ways. Some players are schemed up production, to be fair, but the true guys that are the true separators, and I both mean that literally and figuratively, like guys that can separate on their routes really well. You're able to do that in college. It's going to get harder in the NFL, but at least having those technical skill sets, that refined route running, like that'll help you to eventually make that transition. The guys that just went off pure athleticism in college, well, like you're not going to be able to out
Good
athlete
luck.
guys in the NFL. So that's why
Yeah.
wide receiver RAS scores really don't matter to me. Super matters to me at tight end though, like I mentioned, because who are the guys that are me? Again, I don't expect any tight ends to just target dominate their teams. You maybe get one or two guys every year that lead their team in targets. And again, for the last decade, that one of those two guys has always been Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been a lot of room for other guys to truly be that target dominator on their teams, like literally leading their team in targets year in, year out. So for your lower number of targets, who could be most efficient? And the best athletes in tight ends seem to just yards after the catch, or they're running routes deeper downfield that when they do catch the ball, it's worth more yards, potential to score touchdowns. So when I look at tight end sleepers, I went down the RAS score, and there are, as much as Sadiq and Stowers had great scores, there are 4 tight ends with higher RAS scores than those two. And like tight ends that, looking at mock draft database, are at least in the ranges where they're expected to be drafted. So in order, we've got Sam Roush, John Michael Gillenberg, Tanner Koziol, Tanner Koziol, and Eli Raridon. And all of their RAS scores were above the Sadiq at 9.58. For Roush and Michael Gillenberg, 994 and 992. So elite athletes. So if these guys get decent enough draft capital and certainly look like they're on good offenses where they can score, I'll definitely love taking third round, maybe even late second round shots on some of these tight ends if they get high enough draft capital. I think, unlike last year, say where Ferguson got good capital with a 9 RAS score, that I took him in the late second round at times. Turned out it was a mistake, so maybe I won't force the issue here. Don't know if Roush and Gillenberg are expected to get like really good draft capital, but I think they'll probably be worthy third round picks as long as they're drafted.
Definitely. And then did you have you mentioned a running back, sorry, Kyle? Or
No. My next running back is Damon Claiborne. And I think the reason he's a sleeper is that he's smaller from what I understand. Like his stature is like
5'8".
I think he's 5'8", maybe like 185 or 180, something like that. So I think that's just maybe the concern. Pretty talented player, and in spite of his small frame, he still had a 7.98 RAS, so decent enough. Again, I like him. This now falls, I think, to the range of running backs where I think the top 10 is pretty clear to me. Inside that top 10, only 2 players don't have 1,000 scrimmage yards per season, and one of them is easily explainable. One of them is Jadarian Price, and the reason his scrimmage yards per season is so low is 6 catches per season at most, right? So like he's doing that. That's all rushing yards. And so like that one I can forgive and understand. It's the 6 receptions that's the problem. It's not so much the yards. Like he's efficiently on his yards that he runs, just doesn't catch enough passes. The other one is Mike Washington. And again, I know the reason I'm raising him. You get a 10 RAS, a perfect RAS score, and you're that great of an athlete. Yeah. Maybe I can forgive a little lack of production. He's still at 813 scrimmage yards per season. So it wasn't horrible. But Claiborne just falls below that 1,000 yard mark. 990 scrimmage yards per season. And his RAS score is just below 8, but again, 7.9 is decent. So enough there to make me think, okay, if I'm in this next big tier running back, Claiborne would be the one I'd pick out right now. Again, in spite of the concerns about his stature, I feel like that'll be reflected in draft capital, and he's probably going to be drafted in a range where he goes in the 3rd or 4th round of rookie drafts. So he'd be right now my 11. Depends on where he goes in the draft. Obviously, at this point, draft capital is going to matter more than anything in terms of what moves a lot of these rankings. Yeah, it's going to be huge for these players, especially like we have that real core unit in the first 6, and then anything could happen. Like these second rounders could be first rounders that can drop down. It's going to be really interesting to see. Kyle, that has been an absolute pleasure once again chatting to you, my friend. Before you head off, can you just remind everyone where can they find all of your great work online? Yeah, so I've already mentioned the show a couple times, but Dynasty Six Pack. It's a show I co-host. Our next episode we're recording will be episode 50. So super proud this journey we started a year ago. Myself, JD Pirogue, Rahul Natarajan. So yeah, it's a great show. We love talking Dynasty Fantasy Football, and we get to do it all year round. We've kind of started our rookie process recently. Our two most recent episodes have been looking at ADP, seeing where rookie picks are going in ADP, and comparing them to a player that's going right around them, and essentially playing the game of would you rather have the pick or the player. So those are our two most recent episodes as kind of our way to almost introduce the rookie format. And now the next few will be a lot of rookie, like we'll do one episode per position on the rookie profiles, ranking the rookies pre-draft before eventually, talking mock drafts and rookie draft season. That's just around the corner. So a lot of great time there. Also, around the NFL draft is when I really start writing a lot of articles for Fantasy Six Pack. So heavy concentration in season with the goal line guide, but last off season I did quite a lot starting with the draft. So that's great there. And I still occasionally contribute to Going for Two for special live things. I know Jeff Lambert has the PLP Personal League podcasts. People pay for the podcast for their specific league. We analyze the teams, rank the teams, talk about moves each manager should make with their teams. And so I'll contribute to those. I know Jeff Lambert himself, he helps host the Scott Fish Bowl live draft in Washington. And so in Washington, D.C. So he usually has some of us actually hosting when we do Scott Fish Bowl live check-ins on those days. I've helped with that a few years, done a lot of draft live content as well for Going for Two. Several seasons, I think 3 or 4 years in a row, I've done the Saturday draft, like during the NFL draft Saturday, just going through and talking about how everything has gone through 3 days. And that stream is usually lasting like 3 hours or so. So
nice.
A lot of live stuff for Going for Two live, but certainly year-round content is Fantasy Six Pack. Again, check out the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel, and that's where you can find Dynasty Six Pack, all sorts of other great shows. Yes, there's a lot of baseball stuff right now. It's pretty heavy baseball draft season, so there's a ton of baseball content at Fantasy Six Pack. But the football shows are still going. There's us at Dynasty Six Pack. Offensive Points is another football show on the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Six Pack. Be sure to subscribe also to the Dynasty Hotseat as well. Both Joe Bond, Mags, really appreciated the brands that they've created. Help support it. It's a free, easy way to just support. And I know you talk about the percentages at times in your episode, like how many people, the percentage of people aren't subscribed. I know a certain facet of that is some people can watch on YouTube that don't have accounts, right? And so those are people that don't have the ability to subscribe. So the people who can, though, if you do have an account, know that if you're part of that, like whatever, 70% that's watching and not subscribed, if you can subscribe, you got to have to do your part, because there's a lot of people that maybe don't have that ability to subscribe. And I think everyone has someone else will do it, right? Like that sort of thinking.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to be the one to do it. So we're asking for those subscriptions, people. So really appreciate it, because I know Mags does so much great work here with these rookie videos, the recent tier videos he's doing with Ali and James. Those have been exciting. I've really enjoyed giving you guys a lot of comments, a lot of stuff to think about. I know I love sharing my thoughts. So even just do that, comment, pick apart my draft. If you think this 2 rounds was awful, let me know where I went wrong, which guys I took way too late, way too early. You can also be nice and comment which picks you like too. But I appreciated this, Mag. This is super fun. I always love joining you.
Yeah, I'm already looking forward to next year when we have you back on for. I mean, I'm already excited for the 27 class, Carl. I can't lie. So I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Unfortunately, we do have to leave it there. Thank you once again, mate. It's always a pleasure. And of course, thanks to you listening at home. Make sure you keep Carl's thoughts in mind. Make sure you're subscribing up to all of those channels. And of course, right here at the Dynasty Hotseat. But until then, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.